Every morning before the world rushes in, you stand at a crossroads. The first thoughts that enter your mind are like hands shaping clay. They will mold the emotions, choices, and actions that define the next 24 hours of your life. Think about that for a moment. The way you wake up doesn't just set the tone of your day, it sets the trajectory of your entire life. Most people don't realize this. They roll over, grab their phones, and immediately let the noise of the world decide how they feel. Their mood rises and falls with notifications, headlines, or other people's opinions. But the Stoics understood something deeper. You may not control the events of the day, but you always control your response to them. And in that response lies your true freedom. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who carried the weight of an empire on his shoulders, wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." But he didn't write this to complain. He wrote it to prepare himself, to remind his mind that life will test him and that strength is born not from avoiding difficulties, but from meeting them with clarity and courage. That's what mornings are for, preparing your inner fortress before the storms arrive. Modern neuroscience agrees with this ancient wisdom. The brain is most impressionable in the first few minutes after waking. Your initial thoughts literally rewire neural pathways, creating automatic patterns for the day ahead. If you choose stress, distraction, and negativity, your mind will look for more of it. But if you choose intention, strength, and peace, you prime yourself for clarity and resilience. Every morning you hold the pen that writes the script for your day. The question is, what story will you tell? This is where the Stoics offer us something practical and profound. They left us more than philosophy, they left us tools, 12 timeless declarations you can speak to yourself each morning. These aren't empty affirmations or wishful thinking. They are reality-based commitments, tested through centuries of war, exile, loss, and struggle, yet strong enough to carry ordinary people through extraordinary challenges. Generals use them to endure battles. Statesmen use them to govern wisely. Prisoners of war use them to survive the unimaginable. And you can use them right now to transform how you live each day. Think of these 12 declarations as weights in a mental gym. Each one strengthens a part of your character. Discipline, gratitude, emotional control, courage, self-worth. Some will train your patience. Others will sharpen your focus. Together, they create a kind of inner armor that protects you from the chaos of the outside world. Life will always bring noise, setbacks, and criticism. But when your mornings are fortified, the storms lose their power over you. So ask yourself, how do you want to step into your day? Reactively, pulled in 100 directions by forces you cannot control, or intentionally anchored by timeless truths that no circumstance can take away from you? Your mornings are the foundation of your strength. And if you practice these 12 declarations consistently, you won't just survive your days, you'll command them. To choose discipline over motivation. When most people think about progress, they think about motivation. They imagine waking up full of energy, inspired, excited, ready to take on the world. But you and I know the truth. Motivation doesn't last. It comes and goes like the weather, unpredictable and fleeting. Some mornings you feel unstoppable. Other mornings you can barely pull yourself out of bed. If you build your life on motivation, you build on sand. The first storm will wash it away. That's why the Stoics didn't build their philosophy around feelings. They built it around discipline. Take John, a fitness coach from Texas. He doesn't wait to feel motivated to train. Rain or shine, he laces up his shoes and runs 5 miles every morning. At first glance, it might look like willpower, but it's more than that. It's a commitment to discipline. The decision that his actions are not controlled by emotions, but by values. John knows that progress isn't about how you feel in the moment. It's about what you consistently do, even when you don't feel like doing it. This is the essence of Stoicism. Marcus Cato, a Roman statesman and Stoic philosopher, was known for his harsh discipline. Even in the freezing winters of Rome, he walked barefoot, deliberately choosing discomfort to strengthen his character. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was training himself to become unshakable, to prove that he could act according to principle, not mood. Cato understood that comfort is the enemy of greatness and that discipline is the bridge between goals and achievement. Let me ask you, how many dreams in your life have you postponed, waiting to feel ready? How many times have you told yourself, I'll start when I feel more inspired, when I feel more motivated? And yet the days, weeks, and years slip by. The truth is, the right moment never arrives on its own. Successful people don't wait for it, they create it. Motivation is nice when it shows up, but it's unreliable. Discipline, on the other hand, is steady. Discipline doesn't ask if you feel like it. It asks, what did you promise yourself? What do your values demand? Every time you act despite resistance, you're strengthening a muscle far more important than your biceps or your bank account. You're strengthening your ability to trust yourself. Think about it. If you can only act when you feel good, how strong are you really? But if you can act even when you feel tired, uninspired, or afraid, that's real strength. That's the kind of strength that builds businesses, families, legacies. The Stoics called it the discipline of action, the ability to do what virtue requires even when it's difficult or unpleasant. So tomorrow morning when your alarm rings, don't ask yourself if you feel motivated. Ask yourself if you will honor your commitments. Don't wait for lightning to strike. Be the storm. Choose discipline. Because every small act of discipline compounds into extraordinary results over time. But remember, motivation may open the door, but discipline walks you through it day after day. Say it to yourself with conviction. I choose discipline over motivation. My actions are not held hostage by my feelings. Today, I do what I said I would do. And in this choice, I create my destiny. 2. I am responsible for my emotions today. Every morning, life gives you a choice, whether you recognize it or not. That choice is simple but powerful. Will you hand over control of your emotions to the world around you, or will you take responsibility for them yourself? Most people never stop to think about this. They let traffic, the weather, a careless comment, or even an email dictate the quality of their day. But what if you decided right here and now that your emotions are yours, not anyone else's? Sarah, a lawyer in New York, faced this exact challenge. One morning, she opened her inbox and found a harsh, dismissive email from a colleague. In the past, that message might have ruined her entire day. She would have carried that frustration into meetings, into conversations, even into her home that evening. But on this particular morning, Sarah reminded herself, my emotions are my responsibility. She took a deep breath, read the email again, and chose to respond with clarity instead of anger. That decision didn't just change her morning, it changed the direction of her entire day. This is the heart of Stoicism. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor who endured circumstances far more brutal than most of us can imagine, wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." Frankl discovered that while the world may strip away almost everything, it cannot strip away your freedom to choose your response. And if he could maintain that freedom in the darkest of places, what excuse do we have in the small inconveniences of daily life? The truth is, most of us live as emotional hostages. We say, "He made me angry. She ruined my day. That ruined my mood." But no one can truly make you feel anything without your permission. Events happen, people act, circumstances unfold. But the story you tell yourself about those events, that's where your emotions come from. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught, we suffer not from events themselves, but from our judgments about them. Change the judgment, and you change the suffering. Ask yourself, how many times have you given away your peace to a stranger who cut you off in traffic? How many mornings have you surrendered your joy to a headline that wasn't even about you? What would your life look like if you reclaimed that power? Imagine starting each day with the conviction that no one else gets to write the script of your emotions. That your inner state is not for sale, not for rent, not up for negotiation. This doesn't mean you'll never feel sad, disappointed, or frustrated. It means you'll recognize those emotions as temporary visitors, not permanent residents. It means you'll stop letting the outside world determine your inner world. When you place your hand on your heart each morning and declare, "I am responsible for my emotions today," you're signing a contract of freedom with yourself. Because the moment you take responsibility, you reclaim power. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the author of your experience. And once you live as the author, life feels less like something that happens to you and more like something you create. That is the real freedom the Stoics practiced. And it's the freedom available to you right now in this very moment. 3. I will act, not just intend. Every morning, millions of people wake up with good intentions. They plan to start exercising, to finally write that book, to call their parents, to launch that business. But by the time the day ends, those intentions are still just thoughts floating in the air. Dreams die not because people lack vision, but because they fail to act. The gap between intention and action is the graveyard where most ambitions are buried. Take Mike, a man from California who dreamed of writing a novel. For years he told his friends, "One day I'll write my book." He imagined the story, he even outlined characters in his head, but nothing ever appeared on paper. Then one morning he made a simple decision. Instead of saying, "I will write," he sat down and wrote one page. Just one. He repeated this every morning. By the end of a year, he wasn't just someone who dreamed of writing a book. He was the author of a completed manuscript. The difference wasn't inspiration or luck. The difference was action. Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, understood this truth. He wrote, "In the morning when thou risest unwillingly, let this thought be present. I am rising to the work of a human being." He reminded himself that life isn't about endless preparation or waiting for the perfect mood. Life is about showing up, even when you don't feel like it. The Stoics taught that virtue is action. It's not enough to know what is right. You must live it. Think about your own life. How many times have you said, "I'll start tomorrow"? How many mornings have you told yourself, "I just need a little more time," while the opportunity slowly slipped away? The truth is, there will never be a perfect moment. Conditions will never be flawless. Waiting for the right time is just a clever disguise for procrastination. The people who move forward are not the ones with perfect plans, but the ones who are willing to take imperfect action. Action has a power that intention can never match. When you act, you create momentum. When you act, you learn. When you act, doors open that would have remained invisible if you only stood still. Motivation follows movement. Courage grows in the doing, not in the thinking. And every small step compounds into something extraordinary over time. Ask yourself, what dream have I been holding hostage by keeping it in the realm of intention? What could change if instead of thinking about it one more day, I took one small action right now? Imagine the difference in your life if you shifted from being a dreamer to being a doer. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, remind yourself of this truth. Don't wait for the feeling. Don't wait for the circumstances. Don't wait for permission. Act, write the page, make the call, start the workout. Take the first step, because intentions without actions are nothing more than wishes. And wishes don't change lives, actions do. Say it to yourself with conviction. I will act, not just intend. Today I choose progress over perfection, movement over hesitation, and doing over dreaming. My intentions mean nothing without my actions. Today I act. 4. I will not compare my journey to anyone else. Comparison is one of the fastest ways to drain your joy. We all know the feeling. You open LinkedIn or Instagram and there it is. Someone your age got promoted. Someone you know bought a house. Someone else is on vacation at a place you've always dreamed of visiting. Suddenly your life, which felt fine a moment ago, feels small, stagnant, or inadequate. But here's the truth. You are not behind. You are not late. And your worth is not determined by the highlight reel of someone else's life. Emily, a young professional in Chicago, used to fall into this trap every morning. She scrolled through LinkedIn and saw her peers landing prestigious jobs, launching businesses, or celebrating milestones. Each post chipped away at her confidence. She began to wonder if she was failing. But one day she decided to shift her focus. Instead of measuring her progress against others, she asked herself a simple question. Am I better than I was yesterday? That one change freed her, because progress, when measured against your own growth, becomes meaningful again. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught, how much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself. He understood that your only true competition is with yourself. Life isn't a race with a single finish line. It's a unique path shaped by your strengths, your struggles, and your circumstances. Trying to compare journeys is like comparing apples to oceans. It doesn't make sense, and it will only make you miserable. Think about it. Do you know the full story behind the people you compare yourself to? You see the polished promotion announcement, but not the sleepless nights, the failures, or the quiet fears. You see the photo of a perfect vacation, but not the credit card debt or the loneliness behind the smile. When you compare your behind the scenes to someone else's carefully curated stage performance, you set yourself up for despair. So here's a better question to ask each morning. What does success look like for me? Not for my boss, not for my neighbor, not for my classmate from college, for me. Maybe it's becoming more patient with your children. Maybe it's finishing that book you've been meaning to read. Maybe it's taking one step toward a healthier body or a calmer mind. These may not be milestones that make headlines, but they are victories that build a meaningful life. Your journey is yours alone. No one else has lived your exact story, with your exact challenges, gifts, and dreams. Trying to wear someone else's shoes will only give you blisters. But walking confidently in your own, at your pace, toward your definition of success, creates a kind of fulfillment that no comparison can steal. Tomorrow morning, remind yourself of this liberating truth. I will not compare my journey to anyone else's. My path is unique, my timing is perfect, and my progress is real. I can celebrate the success of others without questioning my own worth, because I am exactly where I need to be on the journey that belongs only to me. 5. I will end the day better than I started. Every sunrise offers you a contract. It whispers, here is another day. What will you do with it? Most people rush into their mornings without thinking about how they want to finish their evenings. They measure their success by whether they checked off every box on their to-do list, whether their boss approved, or whether they avoided mistakes. But the Stoics measured life differently. They believed the true question wasn't, did I achieve enough? Did I grow enough? Robert, a high school teacher in Florida, practices this principle every night. Before bed, he doesn't ask himself if his day was perfect. Instead, he asks 3 simple questions. Was I more patient than yesterday? Did I learn something new? Did I take even one small step toward being a better version of myself? Those questions changed how he lived his days. They freed him from perfectionism and helped him focus on progress. And progress, not perfection, is what truly shapes a meaningful life. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, had a similar nightly ritual. He wrote, "What wound did I heal today? What failing did I resist? Where can I show improvement?" These were not questions meant to shame him, but to refine him. Seneca knew that growth is not about giant leaps. It's about consistent steps. It's about looking back at the day and saying, I am slightly stronger, slightly wiser, slightly more disciplined than I was this morning. Think about it this way. If you improve by just 1% every day, you won't notice the difference tomorrow. But over time, the change is extraordinary. 1% compounded daily doesn't just add up. It multiplies. Imagine who you could become in a year, in 5 years, in a lifetime if you ended each day a little better than you began it. The beauty of this practice is that it makes failure impossible. Even if your day was chaotic, even if you made mistakes, you can still end it with growth by reflecting and learning. Did you lose your temper? Then your lesson is patience. Did you waste time? Then your lesson is focus. Did you face rejection? Then your lesson is resilience. Every experience, good or bad, becomes material for self-improvement. Ask yourself, how would your life change if you measured it not by external accomplishments, but by inner progress? How much peace would you feel if, instead of chasing flawless days, you pursued better days? This is not about punishing yourself for shortcomings. It's about choosing to see each day as a classroom, each challenge as a teacher, and each mistake as an assignment you can review and correct. So tonight, when you lay your head on the pillow, don't ask if you were perfect. Ask if you were better. Ask if you ended the day wiser, calmer, or stronger than when it began. And if you can answer yes, even in the smallest way, then your day was a victory. Declare it to yourself. I will end the day better than I started. I will measure my life not by perfection, but by progress. I will use today's lessons to create tomorrow's strength, because when I grow each day, even by a fraction, I build a life that compounds into greatness. 6. I am grateful for what I have. A gratitude is one of the simplest practices you can adopt, yet it has the power to transform the way you experience life. Every morning you have a choice to wake up thinking about what's missing or to wake up noticing what's already here. One path leads to constant restlessness, the other to peace. The Stoics understood this well. They taught that it is not the length of life that determines its richness, but the way you choose to use your attention. Seneca wrote in Stoic, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. And one of the greatest wastes is to overlook the blessings that sit right in front of us." Lisa, a mother living in Seattle, discovered this truth during a stressful season of her life. Each day felt overwhelming, deadlines at work, bills stacking up, and the constant pressure of balancing her role as a parent with her career. But instead of letting anxiety control her warnings, she began a small ritual. The moment she opened her eyes, she wrote down 3 things she was grateful for. Some days it was her health, her daughter's laughter, or the simple fact that she had work she loved. On other days, it was as small as a warm cup of coffee or the quiet of a rainy morning. What she found was profound. Gratitude didn't erase her challenges, but it gave her the strength to face them with a lighter heart. Modern science now confirms what the Stoics practiced centuries ago. Neuroscience shows that gratitude literally rewires the brain. When you focus on what you appreciate, your brain builds new pathways that make optimism and resilience more natural. Over time, you don't just practice gratitude, you begin to live it. You stop obsessing over what you lack and start noticing the abundance that surrounds you. Ask yourself, when was the last time you paused to appreciate the ordinary miracles of your life? Your heart beating thousands of times a day without your command. Your lungs breathing in and out, keeping you alive. The technology that lets you listen to these words from anywhere in the world. The roof above your head, the food on your table, the people who care for you. We call them ordinary only because we've gotten used to them. But if you lost them, even for a moment, you would realize they were extraordinary all along. The Stoics practiced something called negative visualization. They imagined losing what they currently had, not to become pessimistic, but to deepen their gratitude for the present. Imagine for a moment if today were the last day you could enjoy your health, your loved ones, or even the sunlight outside your window. How much more precious would those things become? Gratitude shifts your vision. It doesn't deny difficulties, but it reminds you that blessings and burdens exist side by side, and you get to choose which one will shape your day. So tomorrow morning, before the demands of the world come crashing in, pause and choose gratitude. Write down 3 things or simply whisper them to yourself. They don't have to be grand. What matters is the perspective, because gratitude is not about ignoring your problems. It's about refusing to let them blind you to your blessings. Say it with conviction. I am grateful for what I have. Today I choose to see abundance over scarcity, appreciation over complaint, and joy over worry. My grateful heart creates my happy life. 7. Nothing can disturb my peace without my permission. Peace of mind is one of the most valuable possessions you will ever have, and yet most people give it away far too easily. A rude comment, a traffic jam, a disagreement at work, suddenly their entire day is ruined. But here is the truth. No one has the power to disturb your peace unless you hand them the keys. Your mind is your fortress, and you are the gatekeeper. James, a healthcare worker in Boston, knows this better than most. Every day he faces patients who are scared, frustrated, and sometimes downright hostile. It would be easy for him to snap back or let their anger infect his mood. But James practices something powerful, the pause. When someone lashes out, he takes a breath. He reminds himself, this is their storm, not mine. He doesn't react instantly. Instead, he chooses his response. That pause is where his strength lies, because it keeps him in control of his inner world. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, captured this wisdom perfectly when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The world will always throw challenges, insults, and frustrations at you, but the question is not what the world does. It's whether you allow it to enter the gates of your mind. Think about how often we leave those gates wide open. Someone criticizes us, and suddenly we replay their words all day long. A stranger cuts us off in traffic, and hours later we're still clenching the steering wheel in anger. It's like letting unwanted guests walk into your home, sit down on your couch, and take over your living room. Would you allow that? Of course not. Then why allow negative thoughts and emotions to do the same in your mind? Protecting your peace does not mean ignoring problems or becoming emotionless. It means deciding what gets access to your inner world. It means recognizing that not every opinion deserves your attention, not every problem deserves your panic, and not every provocation deserves your reaction. This is not indifference, it is discipline. The Stoics called it the discipline of desire, the ability to remain centered regardless of what happens around you. Ask yourself, how would your life change if you guarded your peace as fiercely as you guard your money, your time, or your reputation? How much calmer would your days feel if you refused to let every criticism, every worry, every piece of bad news set up camp in your mind? The truth is, the world is noisy, but you don't have to let that noise echo inside you. Tomorrow morning, stand in front of the mirror and remind yourself, nothing can disturb my peace without my permission. Say it until you believe it. You are the guardian of your inner world. Your peace is not for sale, not for rent, not up for negotiation. When you live this way, you don't become untouchable because nothing bad happens. You become untouchable because you've learned to protect what matters most. So remember this, the storms will come, the voices will rise, but your mind is your fortress, and only you decide who gets to enter. 8. Every challenge is a chance to grow stronger. Life has a way of placing obstacles in our path. Some are small annoyances, others feel like mountains too heavy to climb. And when those challenges appear, our first instinct is often resistance. We ask, why me? Why now? But what if those very obstacles weren't punishments, but invitations? What if every challenge you face is actually an opportunity, a training ground to become stronger than you were yesterday? Anna, a single mother living in Denver, discovered this truth firsthand. Raising her child alone while juggling 2 jobs felt impossible at times. Bills stacked up, exhaustion became her constant companion, and loneliness crept in when she least expected it. She could have chosen despair, but instead she reframed her struggle. She began to see her daily battles not as evidence that life was against her, but as a gymnasium for her spirit. Each sleepless night built her endurance. Each financial setback taught her resourcefulness. Each hard conversation with her child taught her patience and love. She realized the very struggles she once cursed were forging a version of herself she never thought possible. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor of Rome, put it simply, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." To him, obstacles weren't roadblocks but stepping stones. They were not interruptions to life's path. They were life's path. And the way you face them determines whether you grow weaker or stronger. Think about your own life. How many challenges have you wished away only to look back later and realize they shaped you? That heartbreak that forced you to discover your own worth. That job loss that pushed you to reinvent yourself. That illness that taught you to cherish health and time. At the moment, pain feels unbearable. But in hindsight, it often reveals itself as the very thing that built your resilience. The Stoics believed that difficulty is not an enemy, but a teacher. Just as muscles grow only by lifting weight and facing resistance, our character grows only by facing trials. Without resistance, there is no strength. Without challenges, there is no growth. The question is not whether you will face difficulty, it's what you will do with it when it arrives. Ask yourself, right now, what obstacle are you facing that feels overwhelming? What if, instead of asking, why is this happening to me, you asked, what is this trying to teach me? That shift in perspective is the difference between being a victim of life and being a student of life. When you see challenges as teachers, you stop running from them and start learning from them. This doesn't mean you should pretend to enjoy suffering or seek out pain. It means you can hold both realities at once. Yes, this is hard, and yes, this is making me stronger. Yes, this hurts, and yes, this is shaping me into someone who can handle even more tomorrow. So the next time life places a heavy weight on your shoulders, don't curse it. Recognize it for what it is, an opportunity to grow. Repeat to yourself the ancient wisdom. What stands in the way becomes the way. Say it with conviction. Every challenge is a chance to grow stronger. Today's obstacles are tomorrow's strength. I do not pray for an easier life. I pray to become a stronger person. 9. I focus only on what I can control. One of the greatest sources of human suffering is this. We spend our energy trying to control what we cannot. We worry about the economy, the weather, politics, other people's opinions, even the past and the future. But the Stoics taught a principle that is both simple and life-changing. There are two categories in life, the things within your control and the things outside of it. Master this distinction and you master your peace of mind. Daniel, an entrepreneur in Los Angeles, learned this lesson the hard way. He lost a major contract when the economy took a downturn. For a moment, he felt devastated. He could have spent weeks complaining about the market, blaming circumstances, or comparing himself to competitors. But instead, he made a different choice. He focused on what he could control, improving his service, strengthening relationships with existing clients, and refining his own skills. Within months, he rebuilt his business from the ground up, not because the world changed, but because he chose to change his response to it. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who was once a slave, put it clearly, some things are within our power, while others are not. He reminded us that the weather, the economy, and other people's behavior are beyond our command, but our effort, our attitude, our words, and our actions, those belong to us completely. When you understand this, you stop wasting energy on the uncontrollable, and you start investing in what actually makes a difference. Think about how much time we waste stressing over things we cannot change. We replay arguments in our head, trying to edit the past. We imagine worst-case scenarios that may never happen. We scroll endlessly through news headlines, becoming anxious about events far beyond our influence. Each minute spent on these things is a minute stolen from what we could actually improve. Imagine if you redirected even half of that energy. Instead of worrying about tomorrow's weather, you plan how to adapt to it. Instead of stressing about whether people will like you, you focus on becoming the kind of person you respect. Instead of agonizing over what you cannot change, you double down on the small, powerful actions that you can. That shift doesn't just reduce anxiety, it multiplies your effectiveness. The Stoics used a simple exercise called the circle of control. Picture 3 circles. In the center, the things you fully control, your choices, your actions, your words. In the middle circle, things you can influence, your children's habits, your work environment, your community, and in the outer circle, things completely outside your control, the weather, politics, the global economy. The secret is to put most of your energy into the first circle, a little into the second, and none into the third. That's how you create a life of clarity instead of chaos. So tomorrow morning, remind yourself, today I focus only on what I can control. I will not waste energy on things outside my power. My attention belongs to my actions, my effort, and my responses, because that is where my strength lives. When you live this way, you stop feeling powerless and start feeling purposeful. You stop scattering your energy and begin directing it like a laser. And in that focus, you discover a freedom most people never know, the freedom of controlling yourself when the world is uncontrollable. 10. My worth is not measured by today's outcomes. In a world obsessed with results, it's easy to forget that our value does not rise and fall with our achievements. We live in a culture that tells us our worth depends on promotions, paychecks, likes, and recognition. When we succeed, we feel valuable. When we fail, we question ourselves. But the truth is deeper, and the Stoics knew it well. Your worth is not measured by the outcomes of a single day, but by the fact that you exist. Jennifer, a painter living in San Francisco, wrestled with this lesson. She poured her heart into her art, spending months on a canvas, only to see it sit unsold in a gallery. At first, she let those empty sales dictate her self-esteem. Maybe I'm not good enough, she thought. But over time, she realized her value wasn't tied to whether or not someone bought her work. Her worth wasn't up for negotiation based on how the world responded. It came from the courage to create, the integrity of her effort, and the authenticity of her vision. The paintings were expressions of her soul, not price tags on her identity. Seneca once wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." What he meant was simple. Life constantly shifts. Successes fade, failures fade, and both give birth to new opportunities. If you tie your sense of worth to results, you'll be tossed around like a ship in a storm. But if you anchor your identity in something deeper, you remain steady no matter which way the winds blow. Think about how often we allow temporary outcomes to define us. You don't get the job you wanted and suddenly you feel worthless. You make a mistake at work and you question your intelligence. A relationship ends and you wonder if you'll ever be enough. But do these events really define your value? Or are they just chapters in a much larger story? The Stoics believe that external achievements are preferred indifference, things we would like to have, but that do not define our moral worth. A successful career, wealth, recognition, these can add to our lives, but they cannot add to who we are at our core. Your dignity, your humanity, your capacity for virtue, those remain untouchable, no matter the scoreboard of the day. Ask yourself, how would your life change if you stopped measuring yourself by outcomes and started measuring yourself by effort, by growth, by integrity? How much freedom would you feel if you could say, I am valuable not because of what I achieve, but because of who I am becoming? That shift transforms the way you live. It allows you to pursue excellence without being enslaved by it, to celebrate success without being dependent on it, and to face failure without being destroyed by it. So tomorrow morning, remind yourself, my worth is not measured by today's outcomes. I am valuable because I exist, not because of what I achieve. Today I will give my best effort, but I will not place my identity on trial. Whether I succeed or fail, I remain worthy of love, respect, and dignity. Because results come and go, but your intrinsic worth is eternal. And once you know that, you will walk through life with a confidence no setback can touch. 11. I will nourish my mind with knowledge, not just information. We live in an age where information never stops. Every morning, before we've even had time to breathe, the world floods us with headlines, notifications, and opinions. But here's a question. Is your mind being fed or is it being flooded? The Stoics taught that the mind is like the body. It becomes strong or weak depending on what you feed it. And just as junk food damages the body, junk information clutters the soul. David, a professional in Washington, D.C., used to begin his mornings by scrolling through his phone. News stories, social media updates, endless debates. It left him anxious and distracted before the day even began. But then he made a small change. Instead of reaching for his phone, he reached for a book. 10 pages of philosophy, history, or timeless wisdom each morning. What he found was powerful. While information filled his head with noise, knowledge filled his mind with clarity. He wasn't just reacting to the world. He was building a foundation strong enough to face it. The Stoics often referred to knowledge as food for the soul. Epictetus reminded his students that wisdom, once acquired, could never be taken away. Information is temporary, quickly consumed and quickly forgotten. But knowledge, true, tested, and timeless, becomes part of who you are. It shapes the way you see the world, the way you respond to challenges, the way you live your life. Think about the difference between the two. Information is the endless stream of what happened yesterday, who said what, which trend is rising, which crisis is falling. By tomorrow, most of it won't matter. Knowledge, on the other hand, asks deeper questions. What does it mean to live well? How do I cultivate resilience? What principles should guide my actions no matter the circumstances? Which one do you think will serve you 5 years from now? Yesterday's headline or timeless wisdom? Ask yourself, what are you feeding your mind each morning? Do you start the day with reaction or with reflection? Do you fill your thoughts with the temporary concerns of strangers or with truths that strengthen your character? The choice is yours and the cost is high because the quality of your thoughts determines the quality of your life. From my own perspective, I've noticed something simple but profound. When I begin the day with knowledge, I feel anchored. When I begin the day with information, I feel scattered. That's because knowledge gives direction, while information gives distraction. And the more distracted you are, the less control you have over your mind. So tomorrow morning, resist the urge to dive into the noise. Instead, open a book, listen to something meaningful, or write down one idea that challenges you to grow. 10 minutes of knowledge will do more for your soul than an hour of headlines, because information may tell you what is happening, but knowledge teaches you how to live. Say it with conviction. I will nourish my mind with knowledge, not just information. I will feed my soul with wisdom that lasts, not noise that fades. My mind deserves more than distraction. It deserves direction. And when I choose knowledge each morning, I build a life rooted in clarity, strength, and truth. 12. I choose calmness over hurry. In today's world, we are taught to rush. The alarm rings, and before we even stretch, our minds are already racing. Emails to answer, deadlines to meet, traffic to beat. We mistake speed for productivity and hurry for importance. But the Stoics remind us that clarity does not come from rushing, it comes from calmness. Epictetus said, "We suffer not from events themselves, but from our judgments about them." And nothing clouds judgment more than a frantic, hurried mind. Karen, a physician in New Jersey, once lived in constant hurry. Her mornings were a blur of rushing out the door, gulping down coffee, and juggling back-to-back appointments. By noon, she was drained, not from the work itself, but from the mental chaos she carried. Then she introduced a simple ritual. Every morning before diving into the whirlwind, she paused. Just 3 minutes of deep breathing, no phone, no distractions. It wasn't much, but it changed everything. Instead of stumbling into her day, she entered it with calm. And that calm became the foundation of her focus, her patience with patience, and her resilience under pressure. We often think we don't have time to slow down, but the truth is we don't have time not to. A hurried mind makes mistakes, overreacts, and misses the bigger picture. Calmness, on the other hand, is not wasted time. It is an investment. It sharpens your judgment, steadies your emotions, and makes you more effective in every role you play. Think about your own mornings. How often do you begin the day already running behind? How often does the feeling of being late or overwhelmed steal your peace before the day even begins? What if instead you chose calmness over hurry? Imagine taking a moment to breathe, to collect yourself, to set an intention before the world demands your attention. That choice, small as it seems, can set the tone for the entire day. From my own experience, I've noticed this truth. When I rush, I react. But when I slow down, I respond. Rushing locks me into survival mode, while calmness gives me perspective. Rushing makes me a slave to the clock, while calmness allows me to master it. The difference is profound, and the results ripple into every part of life. The Stoics practiced this discipline of calm because they knew that external events are rarely under our control, but our inner state, that is always ours to choose. Calmness is not the absence of responsibility. It is the presence of clarity in the face of responsibility. Calmness is not weakness. It is the quiet strength that refuses to let circumstances dictate your spirit. So tomorrow morning, when the temptation to rush comes, remember this truth. Hurry does not make you more effective, it makes you more fragile. Pause, breathe, and declare to yourself, I choose calmness over hurry. Let that be your foundation. Because when you begin the day calm, you carry that calm into every meeting, every challenge, and every decision. Say it with conviction. Today I choose calmness over hurry. I will not let the world's pace steal my peace. I will move with clarity, act with intention, and protect my energy. For calmness is not just how I start the day, it is how I live my life. These 12 declarations are not just words to repeat in the mirror. They are daily training for your soul, small but powerful exercises in Stoic practice. Each morning when you choose discipline over fleeting motivation, gratitude over complaint, focus over distraction, action over hesitation, and calmness over hurry, you are doing more than shaping your day. You are shaping your destiny. The wisdom of the Stoics was never about denying pain or pretending life is easy. It was about cultivating strength of character so that when pain comes, and it always will, you meet it with clarity, courage, and peace. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus never promised us a painless life, but they showed us a path to live wisely no matter what storms surround us. And these declarations are a way to walk that path every single morning. Ask yourself, what would your life look like if you stopped giving away your emotions to the world? Stop measuring your worth by outcomes. Stop drowning in comparison, and instead lived each day with intention. How much stronger would you become if you treated every obstacle as a teacher, every morning as an opportunity, and every choice as a chance to live with virtue? This is not a distant philosophy locked in dusty books. It is a living practice available to you right now, today, in the smallest decisions you make. Remember, you don't need to adopt all 12 declarations at once. Choose one that resonates with you the most. Maybe it's learning to protect your peace. Maybe it's committing to action instead of endless intention. Maybe it's simply pausing for gratitude before the world demands your attention. Start small, start simple, because greatness is not built in a single leap. It is built in daily steps, repeated with patience and consistency. And here's the beauty: the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. What begins as deliberate effort turns into instinct. Over time, you won't just speak these declarations, you will embody them. You'll notice that your mornings feel less chaotic, your mind feels clearer, and your life feels more like something you are creating rather than something happening to you. That is the true promise of Stoicism. Not perfection, but progress. Not the absence of hardship, but the presence of resilience. So tomorrow morning, when the alarm rings, don't reach for your phone. Don't rush headlong into the noise. Instead, pause. Breathe, choose one declaration and speak it with conviction. Then carry it into your day like armor. And when challenges arise, when setbacks threaten to steal your peace, return to those words and remind yourself of who you are becoming. Your mornings shape your days shape your life, and your life shapes your legacy. Make them count. If this message resonates with you, share it with someone who might need it today. Leave a comment below with the declaration that speaks to you the most. I'd love to hear which one you'll start with. And if you want more content like this, subscribe to the channel and join a community of people who are refusing to drift through life and instead are choosing to live with clarity, discipline, and strength. Because your future self will thank you for the investment you make in your mornings today.